And we are live.
Hi.
Hi. Hi. Welcome back to Back on
Thanks.
Track.
It's great to be here.
So
I'm
excited to have you,
excited.
Laura. So excited. And you're back. You're back
Thanks.
with us as you were on with Tea Time with Tech Marketing Leaders many a moon ago. But we
Yes, it's been a
have
while.
new stuff to unpack because you are no longer at a company, but you are out on your own. And we are going to get to all of those things. Before we dive in, a little bit about Laura McAliley. We're going deep on why your marketing is stalling and why the slow down to speed up mantra is the only way out of the plateau. We're breaking down how to build your foundation and whether you should DIY it or bring in a partner. This show is brought to you by MKG Marketing. We help B2B tech companies get back on track by building sustainable marketing engines through expert strategy and execution. We don't do silver bullets, we do systems. And Laura is one of our marketing experts who we bring to the table and why I'm having her here today. Laura, before we get into it, let's
Yes.
do a little warm up. Shake it off. Let's
Let's go.
find our feet here.
There we go.
Let's play a quick round of word association. I'll give you a phrase and you give me the first tactical thought that pops into your head. And listeners, if you're with us today, hi everybody. We are live. Live is really fun and games are really fun live. So feel free to put your own answers in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. All right, Laura, you ready?
Ready.
First thought, growth hacking.
I don't like hacking and marketing. Let's be a little more strategic. What do you say? Slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
You got it. You got it.
Yeah.
Ideal customer profile.
Foundational, necessary. I don't think you can do marketing anymore without it.
You can't.
You can't.
Brand awareness.
Is also necessary, but not what we used to think of it. I think
Ooh.
it for a long time was thought as very fluffy. And now it is so important to have that top of the funnel brand awareness because people are searching and learning about you in places that you don't own. So you need to be out there to get them at the beginning of their search before they're even thinking about buying.
Oh, we're going to unpack all those things. Marketing agency.
I love my marketing agency partners. I think there's a very important role for marketing agencies in today's marketing world because you need specialists. But if you don't have somebody who can run strategy and help make that agency and the company successful, it often fails. So I don't think marketing agencies fail as much as people think because
Last
they're
one.
not good.
Awesome. Okay. Sorry. Last one. I cut you off
Yep.
there because
Nope.
my internet
You're
cut out.
good. I think I lost you, Carrie.
Can you hear me?
There you are. You're back.
Yay. Okay. Last word. The foundation.
Is everything. The foundation is market
I
research,
mean, we
competitor
keep
re-
coming back to that, don't
Yeah.
we?
I mean, if you don't have a track, you don't have a foundation for your house, then things don't stay moving forward. And I think it's becoming more important than it's been in a long time.
I would agree. So let's get after it then of really defining what it means to have a foundation and start with this question. When a founder tells you that they need more leads right now, what are the first three questions you ask to see if their think phase is actually broken?
How are you getting leads now? Do you know who your ideal customer profile is? And what exactly does now mean? Because things take time. So let's set some realistic timelines.
How does that go over?
Not
Especially that
often
last part.
well. Not often well. And sometimes, I mean, the reality is that sometimes you have to get some things going to show, hey, we can get this going. Results, I can't promise anything. And then back into let them learn a little bit on their own. Marketing's changed a lot in the last few years. And just putting up a campaign and talking about one thing for a while, it doesn't work as well as it used to. But that's okay. I mean, we know this because we all sit in this world all the time. But if you don't sit in this world, you don't know that. So, and when you're talking about spending money and it's a early stage startup or they're seed funded or you're bootstrapping, then talking about spending big amounts of money is hard. So sometimes it takes some
I think
time to
there's
work
two
into it.
camps. There's
Yes.
people who are like, just go and spend.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you when to stop.
Yep.
And then there's the people who are like, I'm scared. Like, here's a penny. What can you do with it?
Yes.
What are the pros and cons to both of those approaches?
Well, sometimes I think, and you can overspend, and then you see your results tank because you're not getting good leads. You're just spraying and praying. How much money can I put out there, and will it bring in? It's not a strategic shop, I guess I would say. Um, on the other hand, if you only give me a penny, I really need like all the pennies because we need to be able to move things around. Like sometimes we need SEO, and when SEO starts working, then we can shift things into more organic social and start boosting social. We need to do more ops to get newsletter functioning better and sales pipelines running more efficiently, so we're not missing anything. You need to at least give me some of the pennies so that we can mix and match all the tactics and make sure we're reaching people where they are. There's so many different places now that people need to see your brand. It takes a lot of coordination.
What specific data point in a CRM usually proves to a founder that their positioning is off?
I would have
Or
told
data
you
in general. It
webs.
doesn't have to be a CRM necessarily, but like, do you use data to help you sort of point to a thing and say this isn't landing?
Yeah. So, I mean, conversions are always a thing. Whatever your CTA is, that button click is important. Except that now that's changing. So, I mean, search visibility across all of the different types of search we have now is going to be super important, or is more important now than it was. I think as we build messaging, um, I'm a big believer in organic social still, but not just organic social from the brand, but also from internal stakeholders as well. So if messages aren't landing in social, then we need to look and refine those messages. Surprisingly, we've been using email again. So really, it's the reaction, the impressions, and the reactions that I look for, depending on what channel we're looking in.
So leading indicators,
Yeah,
not necessarily pipeline.
yeah. I think sales come late. The buyer is hitting that pipeline so much later than it used to. So we have to really see indicators and across all the channels. And we have the tools now, we can pull all that together, right? But yes,
So true. So
buyers are
true.
coming later in the process, yeah, in the journey.
How do you define a minimum viable message so a team can stop over analyzing and start moving?
I laugh because I do this, or you do this, I'm sure. Like, we just got to move on at some point.
Yeah.
So,
Uh-huh.
I think that becomes a lot easier when your foundation is right. So we're going to go back to the foundation. When you have clear messaging pillars and you have a clear mission, vision, product positioning, all of that is in place, and you know your ICP, then all those sub messages become much clearer. Um, we're also working more on, I'm working more on content pillars than I am on specific campaign topics. So one topic gets a blog, a LinkedIn article, social post, polls, emails. So once you have that foundation of the message set, then it's much easier to get to that minimum viable message that you can send out.
Yeah.
It goes a lot faster. So again, building that foundation makes everything so much easier. Yeah.
I will say I sort of had a come to Jesus last year where I had to accept my positioning and messaging where it was, of like, I just got to go and see if it does
Mhm.
the thing. And it's not perfect. And I'm seeing a lot more people say similar things that I'm saying in terms of building a compound marketing motion and making sure that it's always on in an intentional way and that you have that foundation and the positioning and messaging. Like, I'm now feeling a little bit like I'm in an echo chamber, and other
Mhm.
agencies are starting to say very similar things. But I had to start saying something, because I'm finding that when my LinkedIn posts, especially, come back to solving that problem for founders in a way that aligns to what we do better than anybody else, I'm getting traction. Where I
Mm-hmm.
was screaming at the algorithms last year, trying
Yes.
every random act of content that you can think of to try and get any sort of engagement, from personal stories to rants to yelling at, through the internet, at the world. And I'd get some pickup here and there, but it wasn't sustainable. And I'm now finding that traction because I'm
Mm-hmm.
coming back to those pillars, coming back to that beat of the drum of what do we do better than anybody else, and what
Yep.
is the pain that my customers feel that this solves.
Yes. 100%. And I'll tell you, for Pebble, my company, I'm doing the same thing. I started last year. I put out some messaging, thought it was the MVP of messaging, and I'm in the process of getting ready to update it a little bit. I've realized that it needs to be a little different. When we talk about the messy middle, and it hasn't landed the same way that I wanted it to. So I'm going through a little bit of an update now. It holds for now, but I have to drink my own Kool-Aid, right?
Yes,
Do
we
the
both
same thing.
do.
We both do, right? And it's hard. It's hard to do the same thing. Oh man, it's so hard. Um,
So hard
but
doing your own
it's so
marketing.
important. Yeah, and I think with search becoming so much more about not just engine algorithms, but AI algorithms, how they see things. I saw a great report the other day about how every time you search something in, I think it was Rand Fishkin and Spark
Rand
Torrance, and every
Fishkin.
time you
Yep.
love I'm so glad he's back doing his videos again. But every time you search something in a different AI tool, you get different responses. So it's going to be a
Every time.
lot of work to make sure we know our brands show up consistently. And so our messaging has to be consistent, and it has to be in places that aren't just your website. It's the reality we're in.
But your website's the foundation.
That foundation, and everything drives back to it. Everything drives
No?
back to it. Yes,
Yep.
everything drives back to it.
Yep.
Um, you just have to be ready. That's why I'm big on the philosophy. If there's one thing I think a founder can do, is pick 3 different message pillars, pick 3 different content ideas under those, and then use them across all your different channels. So use the same message, take a month, use the same message, create multiple blog posts, create LinkedIn articles, create content in all your channels with all the different parts of that one message, and see how that works. I think that being strategic about that and putting out variations on the same message is going to be really important for what search looks like moving
Super
forward.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a search expert, but that's kind of what
Yeah.
I'm reading. Yeah.
I said to a prospect, a client, we did an assessment for him, just these last few weeks, and my main message to him over and over again was, "You're going to sound like a broken record. You're going to
Mhm.
feel like there's no way that people want to hear this dang message again." But they have to hear it in so many different ways, through so many different customer
Yes.
stories, through so many different tactics of how they get there. There's so many different ways to approach the same concept, like you're saying. And
Mhm.
you are the one saying it. You are going to feel like a broken record. That
Mhm.
is the only way to show up consistently and really hammering home what you do better than anyone else. Yep.
Yeah, and if you think about, let's go back to our ICPs,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that same message is going to resonate differently with your different ICPs. So you need to customize it for that. Then you probably have different service offerings. So it probably needs to change a little bit depending on what service
Mm-hmm.
you're offering or what product
True.
you're offering. So there's a ton of ways to say it, but you need to think about everybody in your spectrum across your audience and that journey, because that message resonates differently across all of it.
And I will say it really depends on you as the founder, but founders come from all walks of life, and you can't
Mhm.
assume that whoever you're marketing to is the same as you are or were, or your journey. And so if
Yes.
you're telling personal stories that you want people to relate to, and they can't because it was never part of their journey, you're going to lose people, right? I feel like I would love your opinion on this. I'm going off script right now. This is a tangent. It's going to be great.
Let's go.
Um, I was told last year, and this was part of my, I think where I got, I don't want to say bad advice. I think it can work for founder led stuff, but I think there is a turn in the tide where personal branding doesn't need to necessarily mean that you're always being personal. Like that content for me did vibe really well, and I did get a ton of engagement from it, but I never got clients from it. I never got growth from it. I got a ton of likes.
Yay.
But I think that it's kind of swinging now. I think the algorithms are swinging to that consistency place of what do you do better than anybody else? Am I crazy to sort of tell people that maybe this personal aspect of showing up and sharing our hobbies and things that are going on in our lives is not necessarily going to be, doesn't mean you don't necessarily need to not do it. It's just not necessarily going to be the thing that moves the needle.
So I think like we were just talking about branding, right? There's a place for everything. I think it's not going to bring in leads necessarily, but when people start to research your company and they look at you and they see a personal side, it makes you human. So there's always that balance between human and not. I definitely don't think it should be a core part of content, especially if you're branding yourself as a founder. But I think making yourself look human every once in a while is okay. So if every post needs to bring in leads, then every post can't bring in leads, right? It's like an all encompassing piece of it is what I would say. So there's a time and place. It's part of it, but it's not. It's but it's up here, right? I don't know. The funnel doesn't work like it used to, but it's that awareness piece of who you are and makes you human, which is important. We play to the algorithms all the time, but we still have to remember that founders are human and they're passionate. That's why we like to work with them, because they're passionate about what they do.
Yeah, and I think there's a balancing act to still being able to come back to what you do better than anybody else, to add that personal flair and to tell that personal story. But how do you tie that back to what you do better than anybody else? I think that still needs to be, especially as you're building that funnel, right? If somebody knows, I feel like people have really gotten to know me, which I love, right? I live in Guernsey, I play tennis, I play music, right? But I don't think people still understand what it is that I do.
Well, but that's been an ongoing trying to explain what we do when this world is very nebulous to a lot of people. But at the same time, I think that as a founder, your passion comes from not only loving what you do, but the life that you live because of that. And so there's probably there's things in your life that extend back to that. So share that. I think that's great. Just don't plan on it bringing in a bunch of leads. It's going to help get that sale into the pipeline when somebody comes and researches you. And they're in that last stage of getting ready to have a sales conversation.
Yeah, it's a balancing act for sure. And I'm just swinging the other way, and then I'll come back and build on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I could talk to you all day about this stuff. I'm going to get back on track.
So much fun. I think I lost you again. I'm not sure if it's me. Okay, there you go.
It's
like,
me.
I'm not sure if it's me. Okay.
No, it's me. I'm either in a blind spot with my internet or my husband's vibe coding and taking up all of our juice. All right, we're getting back on track. That is a real
struggle, by the way, but anyway.
It is. No, it's bad. Anyway, back on track. Okay, we're moving from, if you all haven't figured it out yet, but the back on track piece, the track piece is actually an acronym for think, ready, activate, calibrate, and keep on going. So we just did the think part of building that foundation, being so important of how you do that in terms of positioning and messaging and building that house. Let's talk about the ready piece, the getting ready to activate piece. You talk about slowing down to speed up, just as I do. What
Mhm.
is the one document or asset a founder must have in place before they spend their first $1,000 on ads?
Ooh. I'm going to tell you, foundation, no. Um, we at least need to, I'm going back to ICPs and messaging pillars,
Yeah,
because
100%.
without them, I don't, I mean, I go back to that foundation all the time.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have that, then we can't write good ads. I also would add in there, we need some data. So it's not just one. We need a messaging document, but we need a little bit of data, customer data, to back up everything.
Customer data, like what kind of customer data are you looking at specifically?
I want to prove that customers are actually the ICP, that there's a match there. It's important, so that we know that our messaging is right. But with ads targeting, we need to make sure we're targeting the right people. And so we need to have proven out a little bit of ICP, before we dive in too much with more than $1,000. You're back.
My producer is going to have a whale of a time with this one. Sorry to Tiger Bear. Sorry, guys. Okay. Uh, yes, those that content pillar that you're talking about is so
Mhm,
key, and I think everything needs to drive back to that to be consistent. And
mhm.
I said I said to this client who I did the assessment for. He was like, "What's the quickest way to validate that like this is the right messaging?" And I was like,
Put it out there.
"Put it out there, but more even better would be you have a big network of people. Pick up the
Mhm.
phone, set up meetings, ask
Yeah.
them."
See
He's
what
like,
they
"That doesn't
think.
sound very fast." I was like, "It is and it isn't. Like you'll get the best feedback
Mhm.
and the quickest way. It's not it's qualitative versus quantitative, right?" Um, but I was like, "There's no silver
And
bullet
I
here."
I would there's not. And I like, so for that, I'm in the middle of a campaign we launched that we kind of I came on and we launched this campaign that was partly getting ready, and the idea was already there, and I've kind of taken up the execution of it. And we're doing that. We've been testing it with friends, partners of the
Yes.
clients, and they like it, but we're not converting as much as we thought. And I think there's something that's not resonating. So we're in the process of updating and changing. And you know what? We haven't gone super broad with it. We haven't done much more than some personal outreach and organic social. And so we can test it, see how it goes, and then we can change it. That's okay. The
Yeah.
days of like everything being set in stone and you can't change because it takes a developer 3 hours to change what's on your website, those days are gone. So we want to always put out the best thing we have, but you can iterate. We can iterate live, and that's
So
okay.
fast.
Yes.
So fast. I was talking to a good friend of mine, Chris Salazar. Shout out to Chris, who's also going to be on the podcast later this month, early next month. Oh my gosh, it's almost February. What just
How is
happened?
it? Yes.
Anyway, Chris was telling me about how he's working with these really brilliant young, right out of MIT folks in a startup. And he was like, "Well, we need a new website. And so here's some of the positioning and messaging. Here's what I'm thinking about what it needs to say." And literally overnight, using Versal and and uh was it I think it was may have been Claude. They basically
Mhm.
knocked up a website, a
Mhm.
full blown website overnight. Like
Yep.
this is where we're headed, folks. So I agree. I produce pages all the time within a day, and I get it up to see what kind of
Mhm.
traction. I launched a page for a client in October. It was a pillar page around a very specific keyword that drives a lot of their business, and that page on its own bumped us from like 0.2% visibility in SEO to now 14%. Like
Love that. That's amazing.
right now, I'm like pillar pages. I gotta get more pillar pages
Yes.
out, which I
Yes.
can do. Which I can
Yes.
do.
Yeah.
So
Well, I
totally
did an
agree.
event page in 30 minutes the other day in HubSpot. I mean, which has been a thing you could do for a long time, but it's so easy to get things up now. it's making sure that the content you're putting on them is right and testing it. And Carrie's internet went away again. See if she comes back. There she is.
I'm here. Hey, I just noticed that we got a question from, or a comment from Margie Egan, and I just wanted to call it out because I love Margie. She
Oh,
says, I
yes.
think you know your positioning is landing or not when you ask customers how they would describe what you do to a colleague at a different company. How they describe you when you're not in the room is eye opening.
Oh, yes. Love
That's
that.
cool.
Yeah,
That's
that's
super
a good
cool.
one. Yes.
Yeah. Uh, okay, we're still in the ready section here. When deciding between hiring a full-time marketer versus an agency, right? So we're sort of in the fractional piece of it, of like we sort of have two roads to either
Yes.
help our clients build the internal team or bring in partners. Um, what does the pros and cons list look like for a company at like small, right? 2 to 4 million? Do they need
Hmm.
to build an internal team?
I don't I don't think so. It's going to cost so much money. We lost Carrie again, but I'm going to keep going, even though she can't hear me. I think that when you're at that space, hiring full time staff takes so much budget that it takes away from the tactical execution budget. And so bringing in a fractional, and I just kept going, Carrie.
Yep.
I
Rock
said
on.
bringing in a fractional at that level. Don't spend that much budget on full time staff. You need more money for execution. It's going to be hard to find anyway. So bring in fractionals, partners, agencies. I bring in a whole bench of people when I come. Most fractionals do. And then we can execute and have more budget to actually go get ads, do better content, and do more. I don't, most of the time, you don't need full time staff at that point. And we want specialists. And so if you hire a specialist in every channel, it just gets really expensive. Overhead.
Yeah, it adds up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a balancing act of like who you bring out. I do think there's certain roles that could be full time if you get enough
Mhm.
content going, like a social media person.
Mhm.
Um,
Or even a
but
content
yeah, I think
person.
it's
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but not a whole team. Definitely not a whole team.
No. And really that senior level, you don't need a full-time person. There's you don't need a full-time person at that senior level yet in a
Yeah, it's
company
more
that
about
size.
activation.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yep.
Totally agree. If a founder decides to DIY their foundation, what is the single biggest time waster they should avoid in the first 30 days?
Oh, trying to make a logo. Don't spend your time making a logo before you have everything else. Like so many times it's like, "Hey, look at my clip art logo I made." Which good for you. You have a vision. But a logo is so much more than what is in your head. It has to resonate with your audience. So
Yeah.
and trying to write all of your positioning without doing some market research, understanding TAM and SAM, understanding ICP, you can't get there. So most of the time founders just don't know how far up to like they don't know the basis for what you see. um,
Hmm.
I do market research reports that are like 12 pages with tons of sources to get started. That's mine. A founder doesn't have to read all of that, but it's there in the background to inform how we build everything else, the rest of the foundation.
Especially now with AI, right? So giving that to AI and
Yes.
saying this is the backbone of how I want to move forward is so helpful in terms of speed if you want to
Yes.
do things a bit quicker.
Yes, and I remember I've been working on AI prompting to get to market research and or competitive research and ICPs that are as good as what we used to do when we took months to do them and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. So there's obviously still some limitations. I can't get private research. Surveys are really expensive still and they take time, but I can get close with the TAM and SAM. I can understand how the market's shifting using AI now before when I couldn't. So founders have access to that information that they might not have had access to until much later after they were funded now. Which I think is an important thing. If they have it, let's use it and let's make that logo really work for you.
Yeah. And then get a creative person to design the logo for you. It makes such a difference. We designed our logo a gazillion years ago when we first started in 2011. I did it in PowerPoint
Nice.
I think I stepped it up with Photoshop. I knew enough
Uh-huh.
about Photoshop to be dangerous as a photographer. And so I did the MKG and I like drew an extra line for a double K. Um,
Mhm.
and then colored it in. So I chose a font. I think I chose Ubuntu, some silly font that I just liked the look of, and like off we went.
Yes.
But when I stepped up our brand a few years ago and I got an actual designer, I said I really still love the concept of it. It just needs to be cleaner. Like it just needs that
Mhm.
refinement. And now at like we took it to Cyber Marketing Con. We sponsored Cyber Marketing Con a few years ago, and everybody was like, "Oh, I've been seeing your logo everywhere. I love it." Right? Like
Yes.
it's yeah, you it that designer just has that sense of the
Balance
thing.
and comfort. Yes. Yes. And I have, I'll tell you, so the common thing, I did a small project for a local friend of mine last year, and he and I were trying to come up with a logo for his business in Canva. And it was fine. It just wasn't quite right. And so I went to my designer and said, "This is kind of, here's photos for inspiration. This is kind of what we're thinking. It's just not there." And he took that and made it gorgeous. It's beautiful. But it just needed, I got it so far. He didn't have to go do all the concepting because we had done all that strategy and concepting, but he could take it and make it so much better. Yes. I love
Yeah.
AI
And
for a whole
it's
lot of things. I'm not there with the design and video the same as everybody
agreed.
else. Yeah, I'm not there
Agreed.
yet with it.
Yeah. I have to say the most beautiful logos are the simplest, which is
Yes,
actually the hardest thing. It's so hard. It's so
it
hard
is
to
very
distill it
hard.
down into a few
Yes,
shapes.
it is very hard. And and talking about it needs to be recognizable when it's small or it's like
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, that's true.
Yes. Oh, the conversations about logos are always fun.
It's so funny how we always have them too. It's inevitably we end up talking about the logo with a client.
Yes. Yes.
Um, let's talk about activation and what red flags sign that a team has jumped to activate before they were actually ready. Founders love to jump to the tactics. I find. Are you
Yes.
seeing that too?
Because yes, that's always been the case. And I think that's because it feels like the thing that's going to bring in leads, which is totally justifiable. That is completely understandable. But I mean, I'm sure you've had this conversation. Hey, I've been sending emails and posting on social and it's not working. I'm not getting anything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then it's your message is probably off. We need to fix that. It's not resonating. We need to fix that. Where's your foundation? Who are you targeting? Are you talking to the right audiences and the right industries? Right. So I think that's the big mistake. I go back to that foundation, which is
Yeah.
why you have the order for track that you have. You have to have the foundation, or else you don't know what you're actually trying to accomplish, and what you really need to say. Storytelling, it's the art of storytelling, right? Everything needs. You're telling your story everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But it's often my emails aren't working and my social's not working.
Yeah.
You've probably heard the same thing.
It is. It is. I do find, to their credit, yeah, yeah, I've been running into that too in terms of tactics. I will say to their credit, I do think the founders that I've worked with do seem to really have a handle on their audience. I don't know if you ever found. I don't. It's not that they're talking to the wrong people. It's just they're not talking to the pain of that person. Are you finding the same thing, or do you find that sometimes the audience is off?
I think sometimes I see both. I think sometimes the audience is off, or it's not. It's not segmented enough. So they know they're talking to the VP of operations, but they don't realize that the VP of operations in one vertical is needs a different message than in another vertical. So everything is the same. Um,
Good
and I
point.
feel like that's that it's, yes, generally we know we sell to the VP of operations or the VP of marketing, or please don't tell me you sell to the CIO, because very few people actually sell to the CIO. But they'll tell you this is who I'm selling to, and they'll talk generally to that, but they won't really get to the pain points and those proof points,
We all know.
because proof points are super important too, right? Go back and save one of the documents you need to have as proof points. But anyway, um, they're not proving why they solved that problem for that specific industry.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, that was a rambling answer.
No, no, no. No, that's exactly right. I've been in this. I think that's what's so awesome about bringing different marketing leaders on who have different perspectives and different engagement with clients is they have a different experience. And so in my experience, I find that clients generally know who their ideal customer of who they're selling to is. But to your point, such a good one, there is that um, that needs to happen. And then when you're talking about more of an enterprise customer that you're getting after, then there's the ABM approach too of like, well, yes,
Right.
this is the person who you want to sell to and who you want to use your product, but actually they have to go convince like a whole host of other people. And so how are we going to do that is
Yes.
another challenge that sometimes is a blind spot.
And understanding what kind of budgets they hold at the enterprise level, understanding what kind of budgets that your person in your position holds and what they have the ability to purchase at. Sometimes you can get in that way, but you have to understand that role. Yeah.
Yeah. When testing a new channel, how many weeks of clean data do you require before making a pivot?
Ooh, I like to have a quarter.
At
Um,
least, right?
at least. Um, sometimes people want to move faster than that, but I like to have a quarter, especially if you're firing up. I don't know. I see this a lot. I'm firing up profiles that have been quiet for a while or inconsistent, or we're creating new ones. Especially if you're in that super early getting started or restarting phase, you need to give it at least a quarter of
Yeah.
consistent. Yeah.
Yeah. And even then, it's not always, going back to the foundation, right? It's not always the channel. There's just some channels you need to be on. So
Hmm.
if they're not working, trying to iterate, which will be the next calibrate, right?
Yes.
Will be the next section. But I do think that sometimes we don't give things enough time, but we also don't try enough things
Hmm.
to make sure that it is not the thing. Chances are it's not the channel. It's how you are using the channel or what your
Yes.
messaging is in the channel. We actually just had this conversation. We were talking
We
about
did.
Google Ads for one of my clients, and I was like, I know like it's sporadic in what's working, but I know that there is enough search volume that there should be a higher return on ad spend than there is. There is a positive return on ad spend, but I know that there's more here. And you're like, it's probably the messaging. I'm like, you're
Probably
probably
messaging.
right.
Yeah. It's probably the
You're
messaging.
probably right.
And I think what your expectations of channels are, right?
Oh,
Are
yeah, say more.
you, if right? So if you're doing organic LinkedIn, then we just need to see some impressions and engagement. You're not always going to get conversions, right? You will, but not always. Now, boosted paid social is different, right? That's more of a call to action, but uh, and it depends on what the message is and what your call to actions are. So I think you have to also define what you're expecting from each channel. Um, and and there's a balance between spreading yourself too thin, especially when you're in these earlier seeds, to 5 million.
Oh, yeah.
Um, like you don't have the resources to do 12 channels and all the things. We need to pick three, do them well, and then add as growth comes, right? So what's the low hanging fruit? Where can we start? What's going to take the most time to get going? Um, can we do some cold email outreach and some SEO at the same time with some organic social, so that we're starting to build that brand awareness, but we have some like immediate get some leads coming in, but we're also building now the foundation for the website and for search visibility across all the different places we need to be, a little bit better. So I think it depends on the
Yep.
company, but you need to be really thoughtful about what your mix is when you start out and what you expect
What
from
would you
everything.
say from a foundational standpoint, what would you say if you could only launch, and I know every client would be a little bit different, but I do think there's generally probably 2 to 3 standard channels that have to be in place to have a
Hmm.
strong foundation. What would you say those what are those are in your opinion and in your experience?
So in the B2B technical space that we're talking about, I think I'm usually a SEO needs to come early because we need to build content. SEO, I think, helps build all that content out so that we have ability to do other things on other channels. I like organic social to build some just a little bit momentum and be present. I think that comes from the human side of things. And then I like cold email right now and nurturing email. So I think you need to have email across the whole journey. Um, as soon as you get somebody, you need to be touching them with email. I know a lot of people say no to email, but I don't know. I've seen the right type of email work more recently than it
I
was for
think
a
there's a
while.
shift. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a shift for sure because of how
It's not big
thoughtful and
designed
personal we can
emails.
be.
Yes. And it is not big designed emails. It is not heavy graphics. It's 3 lines that are
One
really
liners.
powerful. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
for
do
sure.
also believe in some working with sales teams and some targeted like inbox outreach that's personal and not like I'm not for the inbox automation that everybody got the same message and that kind of thing. But I think empowering sales is the other thing with the ability to go out and do some very targeted outreach and providing them with messaging so that it stays on track. So there's kind of the 4 things that I think are the earliest stage. You know, now I'd
And
love to have a
why
newsletter and Substack and all that, but give it some time.
it could come. It could come.
Yeah, later.
Uh yeah, once you get this going cuz what I SEO and content definitely are fuel to the social
Hmm.
fire. And I do believe that if you're going to do cold outreach, but you tell me, I believe that from a customer journey perspective, that validation is happening and is key. So they'll see a cold
Yeah.
email come in and they'll go check that the website's legit and that what
Yep.
you're saying in the email is showing up on the website.
Yes. And on your social. And when
Mm-hmm.
they do a search in Google or Gemini or whatever, it all needs to come back. And so I think back to the foundation and content that spans all over the place. Your pillar pages, the SEO background, SEO and content are so closely tied. You can't not have that right now.
I so feel that to my bones.
I know you do.
All right, let's move into the next 2 sections so that we can wrap this up with a pretty bow for folks. In terms of calibrate, what are the 3 columns on your weekly plus spreadsheet that every founder should look at, and everything else is just noise? You're saying this is working or not working. What are those leading indicators? What are the goals?
So engagement, how are we measuring engagement? Right? What are we seeing some kind of engagement? Are we seeing I do think website traffic still, if we're seeing big spikes, we need to see it go up just so early on. Um, and of course, I mean, leads are a thing, and they're like the most important thing. But really, I'm tracking engagement. I'm tracking people coming to website or increases in visits to other properties. So are we got more LinkedIn followers? Are people really engaged? I don't. I'm not as worried about views or impressions. I think they're some indicator of more people are going to come. They're important, but really it's if we don't have people engaging with what we're doing, then we're not making strides. We're not reaching the right people. Because they're not going to engage with us if they don't resonate with the message. So,
Yeah. I like
yeah.
through rates. Through rates are fun. So
Yeah.
I look at impressions, but only because I want to know what's our click through rate in relation to the industry, and are people more, that, and how's that tracking and trending. That's why I love a good scorecard, because you can see that trending over time of like, are things
Yes.
going up and to the right, or are we starting to see some diminishing returns in terms of our messaging and or the spend of a channel or whatever. I'm a big fan of
Yeah.
the through
Yeah.
rates.
Yes, I agree with you. Yeah.
Um, Yeah, I think those are, I mean, obviously clients want leads and they want pipeline, but those are really good leading indicators when you start getting a program up of like, are
Mhm.
we headed in the right direction? And then we can iterate towards giving people more the right content to move them through the funnel for sure.
Yeah.
Um, all right. Once the foundation is set, what is the signal that it's finally time to pour gas on the fire? Like, all right, we got a thing. It's time to go.
Let's go. Well, I mean, I think the big if we can when we're building we're getting started and we're building, can we see that customer all the way through the system, through the journey? If we can't see that, then I
Nope.
think you can't pour money on it because you don't know where it's going. And I know a lot of companies are at a point where they have all that in place, but when you're really working with the earlier founders, or you're working with companies that haven't had fully functioning marketing in place, then they don't have that, and you need it. You have to have it. And then we test, right? So give it a quarter, give it 6 months. What's working? Where are we seeing those through rates happen? And now we know where to start putting a little bit more money. But it's gradual over time. Like, I don't want you to come and tell me, I'm not going to say
You don't
you've
need to
been
pour.
spending $3,000 a month on marketing, so now you need to spend $100,000 on marketing, right? You can't do it that way. It's a slow build. We've got to build over time. And so once we have everything in place and we can see it and it's visible, now we start investing more.
Client
That's my
algorithms hate, yeah, algorithms hate a lot of change, even if it means
yes.
more money. So many
Yes.
times we have had clients show up with a ton of money and say, just spend it. And we're like, this is a terrible idea. We are going to rock the algorithms. This money is
Yes.
going to go nowhere. It's going to go back into all these learning phases. Can we just move it up little by little? But they get to the end of the
Yes.
year and they go, we got to spend our budget. We go, ah, where was
Okay.
this money
I could
3 6 months ago?
3 6
So
months
yeah,
ago.
plan accordingly with your budgets and
Yes.
spend it slowly but surely. Yeah,
Yeah. Quarterly budget reviews
yeah, for sure.
and not going
Last question.
yeah.
Ooh,
Okay. I was just going to say, not going in with any kind of a budget, I think can be just as bad. But anyway, yes. Because you don't know what you're spending,
yeah,
and you're having to decide to spend the money every time, and it just takes a lot of time. So it slows things down.
quarterly budget room. Agreed.
Yep.
Yeah, the year or a month before the beginning of the year, and then we review that monthly and quarterly to make sure we're on target. Totally.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Last question. I know we could talk all day, but last question. How do you prevent, we're so in this right now, this is happening everywhere. How do you
Yes.
prevent shiny object syndrome from creeping back in once a company starts seeing initial success?
You know what my answer is? Does it go with our
I do, but they don't.
foundation? Does it go with our foundation?
Oh yeah, they do know. They should
Tell
know
me
by
how
now.
your audience is in that shiny thing. Like, is your audience there? How are we connecting with them? I mean, I'm open, and I think you always need to leave. I love shiny things. My husband is so sick of me talking about AI because I'm so loving what it's doing to marketing, just like when we saw search come in play, more than 15 years ago. But and we need room for experimentation and new things. And sometimes new things and shiny objects are okay. But if you can't sit down and say, hey, this new social platform that all the kids are on is where I want to be, but you sell to a middle-aged, 30 plus age market and enterprise business. Why are we going to spend our time there? Like, time is precious. Why are we going to spend our time there? So usually I start asking a lot of questions and we can get to whether it works or not pretty quickly.
I have clients where I let them throw ideas at me and I go, I love that. I'll take that into consideration. And then I come back to them like 3 months later and I say, okay, we were talking about this thing. We now have budget for it. Is this still something you want to pursue? And chances are they go, actually, I don't think it's a good idea
Yeah,
anymore. Like, so kind of letting, like,
I
great, I
love
love that
that.
idea.
Yeah.
We'll totally take it into consideration. We don't have budget just yet, but when we do, I'll bring it back to you. And inevitably, they're like, actually, I think
Nah.
we're good where we are. Like, it's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. Oh
I
my
love
gosh,
that. I love chatting with you.
Laura. I know all day, all day.
Yes.
And I want to honor your time because we are at time. I know, folks. Well, I'm
Yeah.
sad too. Laura, if a founder is listening right now and they feel like they're spinning their wheels, what is the one single actionable step they can do in the next 24 hours to get their marketing back on track?
Analyze who your
Call you?
audience is. Yeah, call me. I'm here. Happy to have a conversation. I'll always have a conversation with a founder. I think I love it. So anybody who wants to call and we can have a strategy session for 30 minutes, I'm happy to do that. But make sure you know who your actual audience is and make sure you're telling them how you solve their problem better than anybody else.
Agreed. Agreed. We
It's
sound like a broken record, but hopefully we're
I
getting
know.
through.
But
We're
isn't
getting
that what we
through.
said? Branding got to sound like a broken record, right?
It's
Yeah.
true. It's
Uh-huh.
true. Laura, thank you so much for keeping it real. Where can people find? They want to DM you. They want to find you. Go to your website. Where's the best place?
Pebble-marketing.com is the website, or you can hit me up on LinkedIn.
Links will be in the comments. Thanks for tuning in. Remember, there's no silver bullets, only the tracks you build. This episode is brought to you by MKG Marketing, helping you navigate the growth valley with strategy, clarity, and execution. I'm Carrie Gard, and see you next time. Laura, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you. I love this.